This young man is constantly surrounded by girls, each eager to hold an umbrella for him in the rain. Yet he raises his hand, politely refusing every offer. Everything changes when a girl named Lin Lin appears. For the first time, he takes the initiative and asks to share an umbrella with her. It turns out Lin Lin is the one Ku has secretly admired all along. Walking side by side under the rain, the two create a scene brimming with romance. Unexpectedly, Lin Lin turns to him and confesses her feelings. Overjoyed, Ku believes his quiet affection has finally been answered, but the happiness is short-lived. Lin Lin is only delivering a confession on behalf of her friend. Hurt and frustrated, Ku walks away. From then on, Lin Lin continues to write love letters for her friend, yet Ku despises every single one. One day, while Ku is in the recording room, he accidentally knocks over a book and switches on the microphone. Without realizing it, Lin Lin's heartfelt, genuine words of love are broadcast across the entire school. The commotion draws their teacher, who storms in and scolds them both severely. This mishap ruins Ku's carefully laid plans. He wants to set things right, but by then, it is already too late. From that moment on, Lin Lin transferred to another high school, and Ku never imagined that incident would keep them apart for so long. Time passed, and Lin Lin, now 18, was on her way to university. Her parents accompanied her to the train station, proud that she had been admitted to the nation's most prestigious school. At the platform, Ku suddenly appeared, helping her lift her suitcase onto the train. When she recognized him, she was taken aback, and to their surprise, the two of them were even wearing matching outfits. As if fate had more in store, their dorm beds ended up right beside each other. Yet Lin Lin seemed far from pleased. The sharpness in her gaze toward Ku was cold, almost like that of an assassin. In truth, their mothers had orchestrated the entire situation, quietly arranging for them to meet again. Ku tried to offer Lin Lin a bottle of water, but she refused to take it. Eventually, when they arrived at their destination, a small twist occurred. Lin Lin accidentally picked up Ku's suitcase instead of her own. Outside, the rain poured down in heavy sheets. Ku offered Lin Lin an umbrella, but she refused to take it. Just then, another young man came running up to meet Ku. He was a sophomore at Southern University, close friend of Ku from their days at Danan. Majoring in botany, his warm demeanor and striking good looks immediately caught Lin Lin's attention. Captivated, she insisted on sharing a ride with the two of them to the university. However, the taxi's trunk could only fit one suitcase, forcing all three to squeeze into the back seat together. In the cramped space, Lin Lin kept asking the upperclassmen about someone called the martial god, unaware that this nickname actually referred to Ku himself. Sitting silently between them, Ku could do nothing but endure the awkwardness. As the storm outside grew fiercer, the taxi could no longer continue its journey. Left with no choice, the three decided to take shelter at a hotel. Yet because of the heavy influx of travelers, only a few rooms were left available. Lin Lin chose to share a room with the two boys, still suspicious that one of them might be the martial god. No sooner had they entered than the two were startled by a girl who suddenly frightened them. That evening, the three of them spent their time playing cards together. The story then shifts back to Lin Lin's senior year in high school. Her academic performance had begun to decline, drawing the anger of her teacher. Determined to do better, Lin Lin returned to the classroom and quietly removed Ku's name from the blacklist. One night, on her way home, she encountered a stalker, leaving her shaken with fear. That very day happened to be her birthday. Alone at home, she lit candles and ate a small cake by herself. Just then, a message arrived from someone using the nickname Martial God, wishing her a happy birthday. From that moment on, Ku, under the guise of Martial God, began encouraging Lin Lin in her studies. With his support, she eventually gained admission to Southern University, just as she had dreamed. Filled with gratitude, Lin Lin messaged Martial God, asking to meet him there. But Ku believed it was time for that persona to disappear, and so, he left her message unanswered. Returning to the present, Ku pushed Lin Lin out of the room to silence a phone notification. When she came back to continue playing, Lin Lin deliberately placed all three phones face up, hoping to uncover who the martial god really was. Yet just before she could confirm, Ku quickly locked his screen. Suddenly, Lin Lin suffered a nosebleed, leaving Ku deeply worried. Soon after, she lay down and drifted into sleep. The next morning, as she awoke, she thought she had spent the night sharing a bed with both boys. But to her surprise, she realized she was the only one lying there. Later, Lin Lin and Ku went to the university together. Just as they arrived, a girl appeared, snapping a picture of the two of them. The moment Ku turned to look at the photo, Lin Lin had already vanished. In that instant, he thought to himself that he would remain by her side as a friend, until one day, their bond would naturally grow into love. Meanwhile, Lin Lin found her dormitory room. As expected, she was welcomed by new roommates, warm, enthusiastic, and eager to befriend her. On the other side, Ku had just found his dormitory. The moment he stepped inside, side, his impressive computer skills quickly earned the admiration of his male roommates. The following day, Lin Lin was taken by her new friends to a quiet study spot. Yet she felt uneasy in the unfamiliar environment. She sat for a long time, unable to work out the answers. Just then, Ke appeared to guide her through the problems. From that day onward, Lin Lin began studying diligently, and whenever she struggled with a difficult question, Ke would always show up to help. Meanwhile, another girl entered the scene, Ru Ting, Lin Lin's roommate and a design major at Danan University. One afternoon, while walking in her high heels, the heel of her shoe suddenly got stuck in the pavement. At that very moment, Shi Duan happened to pass by. Kneeling down, he gently freed her shoe. His warmth and striking appearance left Ru Ting captivated, and it seemed she had already begun to fall for him. That same day, Shi Duan also appeared in Lin Lin's classroom as the one assigned to hand out exam papers. This was the freshman entrance assessment exam, and time on the clock slipped away quickly. Ru Ting raised her hand to submit her paper first, deliberately leaving behind a handkerchief for Shi Duan. That night, Lin Lin lay awake, replaying the exam in her mind. She remembered how, during a difficult question, she recognized the subtle tapping code from Ku on the desk, and with his silent hint, she managed to solve the problem. After the test, Lin Lin sought Ku out to confirm her answers. Later, she decided to spend the evening at a bar. Knowing her habits, Ku anticipated that she would be there and checked the address before heading out himself. At the bar, Lin Lin was sitting with another young man, the owner of the place. Ku quietly took a seat at the table beside them, keeping a close eye on her. Seeing Lin Lin drink, he raised his own glass in response, but before long, the alcohol overwhelmed him, and he collapsed into unconsciousness. On her way home, Lin Lin finally noticed Ku, still slumped in his drunken state. Before leaving, she snapped a few photos of him, then helped him outside. Sitting under a streetlight, Ku, though clearly intoxicated, still remembered to hand her a packet of hangover medicine. Lin Lin couldn't help but smile at the sweetness of the gesture. Meanwhile, Ru Ting began frequenting Shi Duan's study spot, openly making her affections known through playful gestures and flirtatious behavior. Before leaving, she even slipped him her phone number. Back with Lin Lin, she struggled to bring Ku back to campus, using a skateboard to push him along the way. Just as they arrived, a perverted thief was caught stealing female students' undergarments. He accidentally collided with Lin Lin and tumbled to the ground. Quick-witted, Lin Lin pushed the skateboard to trip him, but as she was about to chase after him, the man grabbed the board and tried to strike her. In that instant, Ki rushed forward and shielded her from the blow. The sight of a young man bravely protecting a female student soon spread widely across social media, turning Ku into an unexpected campus hero. That night, lying in bed, Lin Lin recalled Ku's thoughtful gestures. Unable to hold back her feelings, she smiled quietly to herself. The next morning, everyone on campus was already buzzing about the viral video from the night before. It was only then that the two people at the center of it finally saw the news themselves. While they were waiting for their teacher, a male student sitting behind them secretly tried to snap a picture of the pair. Before he could do anything with it, Ru Ting swiftly snatched his phone and deleted the photo. Grateful, Lin Lin added her as a friend on social media and thanked her warmly. Later that afternoon, Lin Lin found a quiet spot to sit alone, weighed down by my memories of an old friend's harsh criticism. Ku appeared once again, this time handing her a laptop. He had written a program capable of automatically detecting related posts and deleting them. Though it couldn't erase everything completely, it would gradually reduce the reach and impact of the hurtful story. Afterward, Ku handed Lin Lin a code to scan, and she thanked him sincerely. Following their conversation, Ku returned to his room, sitting tensely in front of his computer. His thoughts were consumed with worry. Would Lin Lin pass her exam or not? At the same time, Lin Lin checked her results. Her score was 394, just enough to pass. Relieved, she decided to prepare a small gift for Ku to show her gratitude. A phone case. She decorated it herself with hand-drawn designs and presented it to him with a smile. Later, Lin Lin went out with her group of friends, unaware that Ku had secretly hailed a taxi to follow. His own roommates happened to be in the same cab, tagging along for the ride. That evening, Lin Lin and her roommates headed to a bar. As the girls flipped through the menu, ready to order drinks, Ku suddenly appeared and snatched it away, trying to stop them. Yet despite his efforts, he couldn't prevent Lin Lin from drinking. Amid the lively crowd, even an intellectual girl began dancing with abandon. Ku, however, sat to the side, focused only on keeping Lin Lin from drinking more. Dancing was never his interest. Lin Lin, carefree and tipsy, ran off to the dance floor. When Ku noticed a man attempting to harass her, he immediately rushed in to protect her. Later, as he carried her out of the bar on his back, Lin Lin slipped a piece of candy into his mouth. By then she was fully drunk, rambling incoherently, while resting her head on his shoulder before drifting off to sleep. The next morning, all the girls woke up nauseous, still still hungover from the night before. Jaewang, the intellectual one, was shocked when she replayed a video of herself dancing. She barely recognized her own behavior. Lin Lin, too, received a clip of herself while intoxicated. Embarrassed, she rushed to find Ku and demanded that he delete the video. After entering Ku's room, she was determined to erase those unpleasant files herself. Once she had deleted them, she immediately left, but on her way out, she sensed something suspicious. A troubling thought began to grow. Could Ku actually be the mysterious god of war? Unable to shake off her doubts, Lin Lin turned back to his room to investigate, only to see a notification pop up from the god of war. Fortunately, Ku had previously entrusted his account to Shi Duan, which forced Shi Duan to step in and meet Lin Lin in person. She insisted on expressing her gratitude directly to the god of war. Caught off guard, Shi Duan struggled to answer her questions. Lin Lin even handed him a notebook filled with her thoughts and notes about the god of war. At that very moment, Shi Duan's phone was connected to a live call with Ku, who secretly listened in and quickly fed the correct answers back to him. When Lin Lin finally poured out everything she had been holding in her heart for the god of war, Ku could no longer stay away. He abruptly ended the call and rushed to her side, only to find that she had already gone. That afternoon, Ku arranged to meet Lin Lin, determined to finally confess the whole truth. But just as he opened up, she threw a punch at him, only for him to jolt awake and realize it had all been a dream. Meanwhile, Lin Lin sat alone in her room, lost in thought, until her roommate invited her to join a stress relief party. At the same time, the senior students were busy preparing their outfits for the freshmen's welcome dance. Ru Ting took the chance to meet Shi Duan and invited him to attend as well. When evening came, the ballroom lit up with the bustle of the welcome party. Lin Lin kept trailing after Shi Duan, trying to talk to him. Misunderstanding the situation, Ru Ting assumed Lin Lin was simply asking the person she liked to dance. Just then, Ku suddenly appeared, stepping in to rescue Lin Lin from the awkward moment. She quickly slipped away, but danger struck in the next instant. A flower pot from above was about to crash down on her head. Ku, panicked, rushed forward to shield her, yet before he could reach her, another hand caught it in time. It belonged to the young man who had once stood up to punish the pervert. His name was Wen. At the Academy of Economics and Management, Wen Tao was just about to extend his hand to invite Lin Lin for a dance when Ku suddenly stepped in, seized her hand, and whisked her onto the dance floor himself. Yet before long, Lin Lin still had to switch partners, ending up dancing with Wen Tao. After their dance, Wen Tao openly declared his intention to pursue her, fueling Ku's anger even more. 12 hours earlier, Ku had shown up in Lin Lin's class, and the two happened to sit together. Out of the blue, the professor asked Lin Lin what kind of person the boy sitting next to her was. The question immediately drew the attention of everyone in the room. Just as she finished answering, Wen Tao walked in and deliberately took a seat near her. Soon after, the professor divided the students into groups of 3 for an assignment. As fate would have it, Lin Lin found herself in the same team with the 2 young men now openly competing for her. At lunchtime, the 2 young men competed to place food on Lin Lin's plate. After eating, the 3 of them headed to the library to study together. Yet in that quiet moment, Lin Lin once again began to suspect that Ku might really be the god of war. Deciding to test him, she suggested they all visit a haunted house that evening, her way of punishing Ku for refusing to admit the truth. Back in his room, Ku tried a horror game on his computer, but he couldn't bring himself to look directly at the screen, too terrified of ghosts. When they finally set out, the group wasn't just the 3 of them anymore. Their roommates tagged along as well. As soon as they entered, everyone turned out to be far more timid than expected, especially Ku, who clung to the wall and even held tightly onto Lin Lin for comfort. At one point, Lin Lin even managed to scare him back. By the time they emerged, only Jaewang had remained calm throughout. As a reward, Jaewang was handed a few free tickets upon leaving the haunted house. Eventually, everyone dispersed and went their separate ways. That night, Shi Duan, tending to his plants in silence, found his thoughts drifting to Ru Ting, who at that very moment was walking back to the dormitory with Lin Lin and the others. She hadn't forgotten to bring small gifts for everyone. After shaking hands and greeting Lin Lin, she suddenly received a message from Shi Duan and quickly rushed off to meet him. Meanwhile, Wen Tao was up on the rooftop with 2 friends, arranging candles into the shape of a romantic heart, clearly preparing to confess his feelings to Lin Lin. Excited, he hurried home to freshen up. At the same time, Ku was alone alone in the practice room, rehearsing what he would say before facing Lin Lin. Gathering his courage, he ran to the rooftop and stepped into the glowing heart just as Lin Lin arrived. When Ke finally declared himself to be the god of war, Lin Lin showed no surprise. She had already known. Instead, it was Ke who stood stunned by her calmness. Suddenly, Wen Tao appeared, holding a sparkler in hand. Standing nearby, he listened in on their conversation, completely unable to make sense of it. Every time he tried to speak, Lin Lin and Ke immediately hushed him, leaving him baffled and frustrated. Afterwards, the two of them left, leaving Wen Tao standing alone, still confused. Lin Lin was already upset with Ke. At this moment, Si Duan, having just finished work, saw the beautiful woman waiting at the door. He then led her inside to look at the plants, and she was surprised to see one of the small plants glowing. When Lin Lin returned home, she received a flood of apology messages from Ke, but she still couldn't calm her anger. He, in turn, lay awake, unable to sleep. For several days afterward, Lin Lin avoided him at school. One day, she went to the library to read and reviewed their message exchanges. That evening, she returned to her hometown. Ke and Wen Tao went along with her to the train station, even sharing the same compartment. During the night, Wen Tao climbed over to Ke's bed to sleep. The next morning, the two of them argued over Lin Lin's luggage. Eventually, her parents arrived to pick her up, but they let her daughter go last. One young man was favored by Lin Lin's mother, while the other was admired by her father. Afterwards, everyone returned home to have a meal together. The meal had been nothing short of chaotic. That evening, Lin Lin's mother and Ke's mother secretly met to discuss how to bring their children together as a couple. Meanwhile, Wen Tao and Ke continued to bicker endlessly into the night. The next day, Wen Tao went fishing with Lin Lin's father, while her mother visited Ke's house. Pretending to lure her daughter to a restaurant, she sat and listened as the two mothers staged a playful argument. In truth, it was all an act. They just wanted a reason to step outside and give their children some private time together. Later, Ke and Lin Lin went up to the rooftop of their high school. He apologized sincerely, and the two of them sat on a bench talking. Lin Lin's anger melted away, and she even shared some candy with him. As they prepared to leave, they discovered the doors had been locked, trapping them inside. When night fell and Lin Lin shivered in the cold, Ke offered his jacket to keep her warm. Finally, someone came to open the door. It was none other than their former teacher, the one who had scolded them both long ago. After leaving the rooftop, Lin Lin and Ke walked home together. Meanwhile, Shi Duan and Ru Ting were off having a blast racing each other. The next morning, Wen Tao went fishing with Lin Lin's father. When her father received a call from his wife, Wen Tao answered for him. She jokingly instructed her husband to keep Wen Tao there, making him feel a mix of amusement and embarrassment. At the same time, Lin Lin and Ke were preparing to head to the Haisan resort village to celebrate a Sei birthday. Wen Tao overheard everything and couldn't help feeling left out, though Lin Lin's father eventually let him go home. Suddenly, two of Lin Lin's roommates showed up at her house, crying, and she decided to take them along to the resort. Upon arrival, they were met with one surprise after another, as more and more friends joined the outing. Ru Ting and Shi Duan also arrived, and when Lin Lin saw her friends, she approached them, pretending as if they had planned to meet in advance. Amid all the chaos, Lin Lin once again found herself the center of attention, with two young men competing for her affection. Suddenly, Ke received a call from Professor Chen, which meant he could no longer join Lin Lin for the outing. Left with Wen Tao, Lin Lin ended up having a genuinely fun time. Meanwhile, Ke, watching from inside the tent, grew anxious and hurriedly finished his tasks. Later, everyone headed to the beach. Lin Lin jumped into the water for a swim, enjoying herself. But Ke, standing on the shore, suddenly realized she was nowhere to be seen and panicked. Without hesitation, he leapt into the water, only to find he couldn't swim. Luckily, the others quickly dived in and pulled him back to shore. Lin Lin immediately took charge, performing first aid and rescue breaths on him. After all the excitement, Lin Lin caught a cold, and her roommates fussed over her with care. That evening, she had to stay in the infirmary for a health check, and Ke came rushing to stay by her side. Meanwhile, Wen Tao was outside, busy decorating a huge stage for Lin Lin's birthday, completely unaware that she and Ke were exhausted, lying side by side in the infirmary receiving IV drips. Ke was handed a birthday cake by a few friends, but unfortunately, it slipped and fell. By then, Lin Lin had woken up. Quick to act, Ke repaired the cake and brought it over to personally wish Lin Lin a happy birthday. Meanwhile, Wen Tao had already prepared a stage and another cake to celebrate her, making Lin Lin feel genuinely delighted. Yet, despite the festivities, her gaze kept returning to Ke. The group lit fireworks and released sky lanterns together, but the fireworks accidentally ruined the lanterns' wishes, leaving Ke and the others frustrated. Later, Lin Lin sat down to play the guitar and sing for everyone, Only Wen Tao took out his phone to record her voice, capturing the moment carefully. Inside, Ru Ting was crying loudly, while everyone else gathered outside. Hearing her, Lin Lin immediately ran in to comfort her. Ru Ting was upset because Shi Duan had rejected her. He had told her that she was like a towering tree. If it were moved to the opposite shore, she would regret it. Lin Lin listened, but couldn't quite understand what he meant. She gently consoled Ru Ting, telling her not to cry, and reassured her that someday there would be someone who truly understood Shi Duan. Lin Lin texted Ku to meet her so she could ask him something. When he read her message, he sneaked out to meet her, only to be misled into thinking that she liked Shi Duan. After that, Ku angrily ran to look for Shi Duan. Ku was left in shock as misunderstandings kept piling up. Meanwhile, Lin Lin and Ru Ting were sitting together with facial masks on. Only minutes ago, they had been crying, but now Ru Ting was visibly much happier. After taking advice from Shi Duan, Ku ran to find Lin Lin and confessed his feelings, surprising her with an unexpected kiss. From a distance, Wen Tao watched the scene unfold and felt a deep pang of heartache. The next morning, everyone packed their luggage and left the resort village. Lin Lin still felt shy and avoided facing Ku directly, while Wen Tao, being considerate, offered her some water. The following day at school, Ku once again sat beside Lin Lin. Even at lunchtime, he brought food to share with her, making it clear that he wanted to be close to her. After school, Lin Lin returned to the dormitory, where her two roommates brought out a durian to share and enjoy together. Meanwhile, Ru Ting visited Shi Duan at the plant science lab, spoke a few words, and left shortly after. Suddenly, Wen Tao appeared, inviting Lin Lin to play tennis. As they played, he gently took her hand and guided her on how to hold the racket. The two of them had a lot of fun together. After the game, Wen Tao went off to pick up a gift for her, leaving Lin Lin feeling delighted. However, Ku's roommates saw the two of them together and secretly took photos, sending them to Ku. Furious, he fired off a string of messages to Lin Lin, who at that moment was calmly having a drink with Wen Tao. That evening, it started raining heavily. Wen Tao ran out to buy an umbrella to shield Lin Lin from the downpour, but she rushed off before he could reach her. Out of nowhere, Ku appeared, stopped her, and kissed her passionately. Wen Tao, arriving with the umbrella, searched frantically for Lin Lin in the rain. Meanwhile, Ku's roommates, standing by the roadside, captured photos of the kiss, adding another layer of chaos to the tangled love triangle. After Ku walked Lin Lin back to the dormitory, she felt so flustered that she could barely speak. Even inside her room, she remained in a daze. Meanwhile, Ku's roommates sent photos of the two of them kissing to Wen Tao's friends, clearly intending to provoke him. When Wen Tao returned home and saw the images, he felt a pang of frustration and jealousy. To relieve his stress, he went out to play tennis. The next morning, Ku was already waiting for Lin Lin outside, handing her breakfast. Later, in the library, as Lin Lin reached for a book on a high shelf, Ku appeared and grabbed it for her. Embarrassed, she quietly walked away, trying to hide her flustered feelings. After school, Lin Lin waited for him at the dormitory entrance to clarify a few things, but in the end, she ran off first. That evening, Lin Lin's roommates were discussing moving out to live independently when Ru Ting suddenly appeared. Lin Lin asked if she was planning to move out as well, only to discover that Ru Ting had already prepared everything. Everyone was surprised, and shortly after, Ru Ting moved her things out too. Meanwhile, Ku's roommates were sitting around, checking rental prices for rooms outside. The next day, Lin Lin received a call from someone offering a room that was both cheap and close to school. Excited, her roommates decided to go see it with her. Coincidentally, Ku was already nearby, and upon seeing them, he quickly hid inside a wardrobe. When Lin Lin and her friends arrived to view the place, they found the house surprisingly beautiful and the rent incredibly affordable. Naturally, they joked that there must be something wrong with it, maybe even haunted. A moment later, one of Lin Lin's roommates opened the wardrobe and screamed loudly. Hearing the shout, Lin Lin rushed over. Realizing the situation, her friend quickly closed the wardrobe and decided to rent the room anyway. Meanwhile, Ru Ting, dressed elegantly, went to a rural area searching for Shi Duan. Unfortunately, she encountered a cow standing right next to her suitcase, which the animal promptly tossed into the air. Luckily, Shi Duan arrived just in time to help her. He then escorted her safely back to the homestay. That evening, Lin Lin went to the room she had rented, only to accidentally enter the neighboring room. The keypad code was the same as her own, which is why the door had opened. Inside, she saw someone taking a shower. Panicking, she grabbed a skateboard ready to strike, but then realized it was Ku. Horrified, she bolted outside. Finally understanding that she had entered the wrong room. That night, neither of them could sleep. The next morning at school, they met and felt noticeably awkward around each other. It was also the day Wen Tao was competing in a tennis match, but he seemed unusually distracted and kept losing. Lin Lin and her friends stood up to cheer for him, helping him regain his focus. Energized by their support, Wen Tao fought back and ultimately won the championship. After the match, he grabbed the microphone and confessed his feelings to Lin Lin in front of the crowd. Furious, Ku stormed down and snatched the microphone away. After that, Lin Lin approached Wen Tao calmly, handed him a bottle of water, and gently rejected his confession, making it clear that she only wanted to remain friends. Wen Tao felt deeply disappointed and dejected. After Lin Lin left, he slumped onto a chair, sulking. Meanwhile, Ru Ting was out for a walk when a flock of geese chased her, forcing her to leap into Shiduan's arms for safety. That evening, Lin Lin was drawing when she suddenly stepped outside to get some fresh air. To her surprise, she spotted Ku on the balcony of the neighboring house and quickly dashed back inside. Later, while working on her homework, the power suddenly went out. Seeing this, Ku rushed over to her house. The two soon realized they were wearing matching shirts. As he lit candles to illuminate the room, they accidentally brushed lips. In the midst of the blackout, they ended up drawing side by side, creating an unexpectedly intimate moment. The next morning, Wen Tao arrived at Lin Lin's house and was startled to discover that Ku was also there, both of them wearing matching shirts. The three were flustered and embarrassed, but they went to have breakfast. Together, the two young men continued their playful rivalry, bickering at every opportunity. That afternoon, they even competed to see who would get to go to Lin Lin's house first to study English with her. The next day, the students had to go for swim practice. Inside the pool area, it was just them when, unexpectedly, Ku walked in. Wen Tao blew his whistle to chase him away, but Ku ignored it. At that moment, Lin Lin, who was swimming, suddenly felt a sharp pain in her abdomen and sank into the water. Sensing something was wrong, Ku immediately ran over and jumped into the pool. However, it was Wen Tao who ended up lifting Lin Lin out of the water. Everyone was extremely worried. Doctor's examination revealed that she was suffering from acute appendicitis and needed surgery as soon as possible. Kay quickly carried her into a taxi to rush to the hospital, but due to heavy traffic, Wen Tao had to stop each car along the way, asking drivers to give way for Lin Lin's emergency. Soon, everyone began yielding to let them pass. Yet, even after making some progress, the traffic remained congested. Ku then urgently carried Lin Lin out of the taxi to run on foot. Almost immediately, he was hit by a car. Fortunately, the collision was minor, and both Ku and Lin Lin were unharmed. However, the driver got out and started scolding him, even trying to demand compensation. Luckily, Wen Tao arrived just in time to intervene and resolve the situation. Lin Lin was then taken to the hospital, while Wen Tao waited outside for news. When the doctor came out, Wen Tao listened carefully to the instructions. After hearing them, he ran in to check on Lin Lin, but she only asked about Ku. Wen Tao went outside to buy some water and handed it to Ku, asking him to give it to Lin Lin. When Ku entered the room to see her, he suddenly fainted. That evening, Lin Lin sat beside his hospital bed. Their friends, upon seeing them, did not dare to disturb the two. Lin Lin wanted to hold his hand but hesitated. She could only remember the moments when Ku had come to rescue her, unaware that Wen Tao had also been quietly sincere, always helping her in his own way. For now, Lin Lin's heart was filled only with the image of Ku. Meanwhile, Ru Ting was being bitten by mosquitoes, so Shi Duan decided to hang a mosquito net for her. The next morning, Shi Duan held her hand and taught her how to plant trees, which made her very happy. At the same time, Lin Lin and Ku were discharged from the hospital. When they arrived home, they were surprised to find their friends had organized a celebration. However, Lin Lin immediately sent everyone away, needing her own private and quiet space. She stood on the sofa to start tidying up, but accidentally fell into Ku. Later, while cooking in the kitchen, Lin Lin accidentally burned herself. Wen Tao came over to help her. When Ku saw her injured hand, he quickly pulled her aside and applied medicine. Seeing this, Wen Tao kept feeding Ku porridge, and when Ku said he wanted water, he quickly brought it to him. That evening, Wen Tao stayed over to take care of Ku in place of Lin Lin. He even prepared everything meticulously, leaving Ku feeling helpless. Meanwhile, Lin Lin was sitting in her room, drawing. Unable to stop thinking about Ku, she decided to run over to his house. At that moment, Wen Tao was helping Ku with his pants zipper when Lin Lin suddenly arrived. Both sides were extremely embarrassed. Lin Lin quickly ran back to her room. Ku then sent her a voice message, and upon hearing it, she smiled. Meanwhile, Ru Ting noticed that it was raining heavily, so she ran outside to protect Shi Duan's small plants. Seeing her act so selflessly, Shi Duan felt moved and ran after her. Touched by her actions, he pulled her into his arms. Shi Duan then brought Ru Ting back to her room and dried her hair. At that moment, they leaned in as if to kiss. yes, but Shiduan suddenly pulled back in surprise. The next morning, Shiduan woke up and immediately ran to find Ru Ting, only to discover she was gone. He called her repeatedly, and when he learned that she was about to fly to Germany, he grabbed his suitcase and rushed to the airport to meet her. At the same time, Lin Lin called Kayu's friends to help him bathe, but they deliberately refused to come, so Lin Lin had to do it herself. Both of them felt extremely embarrassed, though there were moments they secretly enjoyed. After finishing, Lin Lin stepped outside. At that moment, Ru Ting arrived at the airport. Suddenly, Shiduan ran up, hugged her tightly, and whispered sweet words. Ru Ting felt immense joy and happiness. The two shared a kiss right there in the airport. It turned out that Ru Ting hadn't bought a plane ticket at all. That evening, Lin Lin went over to Kayu's house again to help him with his computer work and studies. The two of them ended up dozing off at the table. The next morning, as they woke up, the doorbell rang. Lin Lin ran to see who it was and found Professor Chen standing there. Not wanting the professor to know that Lin Lin was there, she pretended to be a cleaning staff member. However, they couldn't fool Professor Chen, and Lin Lin had to reveal her true identity. Professor Chen had come to advise Kayu to sign up for Project 827. He had already prepared a list of several candidates, including Kayu, but Kayu hesitated because he wanted to continue studying with Lin Lin. He wasn't sure how to respond. After Professor Chen left, Lin Lin encouraged Kayu, who then ran out to meet the professor and agreed to participate in Project 827. Later, when Lin Lin went to school, she met Wen Tao and the coach, and discovered that Kayu was being put through tennis training by the coach. That evening at home, Lin Lin received a phone call that suddenly inspired her to design a new invention. She decided not to show it to Kayu. The next day, she presented her design to everyone. It was an automatic bath brush. Suddenly, the teacher asked if there was a special reason that inspired her to come up with this design. Lin Lin answered, surprising everyone with her explanation. Later, Lin Lin brought the automatic bath brush to Kayu. At that moment, her two roommates arrived. They assumed that Lin Lin and Kayu were romantically involved and asked her if she had feelings for him. Lin Lin didn't know how to answer, only realizing that her emotions felt different from before. Meanwhile, Wen Tao was at the training court, being scolded by his coach for not submitting his registration for the competition in France. Since he hadn't participated, the coach was visibly frustrated. At the same time, Lin Lin received notification that she had won a scholarship to study in France. Wen Tao's roommate came to share the news with him, and he was overjoyed. He quickly searched for his competition registration documents to submit them to the coach. However, Lin Lin felt conflicted and anxious. She hadn't yet decided whether she wanted to go. Standing on the balcony with a troubled expression, she looked lost in thought. Lin Lin sat at the table, staring at the acceptance letter from the university in France. She decided to invite everyone over the next day for a hot pot gathering. The following afternoon, the girls prepared the meal together. Lin Lin revealed that she might be going to France to study and would no longer be around. That evening, everyone ate hot pot together, but the mood was far from cheerful. Afterward, Lin Lin officially announced that she had received the admission letter from the French university. Kayu's expression turned somber, but he did not try to persuade her to stay. Instead, he stood and raised a glass of wine to celebrate her achievement. Only Wen Tao seemed genuinely happy about the news. When the gathering ended, Lin Lin ran after Kayu to speak with him. He simply said that he supported her decision. She then went back inside to inform her female friends that she had decided to go to France. They all clinked glasses to congratulate her. Meanwhile, Ru Ting went outside to call Shiduan. Upon hearing the news, when he heard the news, he immediately went to Kayu's house. Shiduan had already called Ru Ting's group, and he also asked Kayu some questions. After talking for a while, Lin Lin burst into tears, but soon her mood lifted and she felt excited, planning to run to Kayu's house to confess her feelings. After Shiduan resolved the situation, he was rewarded with a few kisses on the cheek from his girlfriend. The next day, Lin Lin and Kayu sat together on the train. She wanted to confess her feelings, but felt too flustered to speak, so she messaged a few friends for help. When she finally tried to confess, Kayu was wearing headphones and didn't hear a word. Later, after getting off the train, she attempted to confess again, but her plans were ruined by his parents. That evening, unable to contain herself, she ran to his house and shot pebbles at his window with a toy gun. When she finally spoke her confession, it was Kayu's father who appeared at the window. The next morning, Lin Lin went out with two of her high school friends, who revealed that Kayu had secretly liked her for a long time. That night was New Year's Eve. Lin Lin and Kayu hurriedly brought brought food to each other's houses. As Lin Lin ran to his house, Ku was running toward hers at the same time. Ku's mother insisted that Lin Lin stay over since heavy snow was falling outside. Inside his room, Lin Lin discovered his collection of keepsakes and notes, which made her heart flutter even more. Lin Lin ran outside to find Ku, and they finally met on a bridge. She quickly rushed forward and hugged him tightly. Fireworks exploded across the night sky, creating the perfect moment for her to confess her feelings. After a romantic confession, the two shared their first kiss. When they returned home, Ku immediately called Lin Lin. They gazed at each other through the window, unwilling to go to sleep. The next morning, when Ku finally woke up, Lin Lin dragged him out to go watch a movie. At the theater, Ku wanted to hold her hand but felt shy. After the movie, they went out to eat. Lin Lin then invited him to do things that couples usually don't do. Suddenly, they were dressed in military outfits. As Lin Lin approached, Ku imagined kissing her, though it was just in his mind. Later, they playfully shot at each other with toy guns, and Ku ended up with a red mark over one eye. When Lin Lin applied ointment, she gave him a quick kiss, which made him very happy. That evening, both felt a tinge of sadness, knowing that next week she would be flying to France. The next day, the two of them rode bicycles together and took photos to capture the memories. Suddenly, a heavy rainstorm began, so Lin Lin left one of the bikes behind and rode on Ku's bicycle. They stopped at a small eatery to have instant noodles while waiting for the rain to subside. That evening, they stayed at home wearing their high school uniforms. Lin Lin pretended to give Ku a love letter, but he refused to take it, so she playfully teased him. The next morning, they wore the same uniforms to school. Instead of entering through the main gate, they climbed over the fence. It was Ku's first time doing so. Just as they entered, they ran into the school supervisor. Ku grabbed Lin Lin's hand and ran. Back in their old classroom, Ku pulled out the love letter and read it to her. As they shared a romantic kiss, a teacher arrived to take them away. That evening, Shi Duan stood in the rain outside Ru Ting's house, holding an umbrella and looking up at her window. Ru Ting came down to bring him inside. While they happily embraced, her parents and friends suddenly arrived, leaving Ru Ting surprised and flustered. Shi Duan went into the kitchen by himself to cook for her family and the guests. After finishing the meal, he tried to take off his apron and leave, but Ru Ting's father insisted that he stay and eat with them. After the Lunar New Year holiday, everyone returned to school. Ku and Lin Lin were studying together in the library. As they leaned in to kiss, they were noticed by someone, so they moved behind the bookshelves to steal a private moment. The next evening, Ku accompanied Lin Lin to the airport. Before leaving, she gave him a pair of glasses as a gift. Both of them felt a deep sadness at the thought of parting. Shortly after, Wen Tao accompanied Lin Lin on her trip to France. She walked a short distance, then turned back and ran to Ku, kissing him passionately. Wen Tao and their friends could only watch in surprise. Upon arriving in Paris, Lin Lin immediately video called Ku. She then went to rent a room, only to be quoted a staggering 2,000 euros by the landlord. Ku, hearing this over the call, quickly checked online and found that the actual price should be only 1,000 euros. The landlord was exposed and could only force a smile. Lin Lin then started unpacking her things. Now, as a long-distance couple, the two could only see each other through their phone screens. The next morning, Lin Lin woke up to a surprise: a bouquet of fresh flowers sent by Ku, along with sweet messages. She couldn't help but sit there smiling to herself. Lin Lin's first day of classes in Paris had begun, and her roommates at the dorm were already missing her terribly. Meanwhile, Ru Ting went to the botanical garden with her boyfriend to take photos. That evening, Shi Duan appeared in front of Ku's house, startling him. He had come seeking advice on how to comfort his girlfriend. However, Ku was already on a video call with Lin Lin. Now living a long-distance relationship, Ku and Lin Lin could only see each other through their phone screens. No matter what they were doing or where they went, despite the distance, they happily talked and studied together, sharing meals virtually. Even with the time difference, they coordinated their schedules, and at night, Ku set alarms to wake up just in time to video call Lin Lin after her classes. Meanwhile, Lin Lin in Paris was attempting to fix a plumbing issue when Wen Tao arrived and offered to help. Eventually, they still had to call a professional plumber. In the process, Wen Tao got soaked with water and had to take off his shirt. Just as the plumber arrived, Ku called, and he was shocked to see Wen Tao without a shirt. Today, Lin Lin had just finished her classes when Wen Tao suddenly appeared at her classroom and invited her out. Meanwhile, Ku was was having lunch in the cafeteria and intended to take a photo to send to Lin Lin. Suddenly, the person sitting next to him slammed the table, startling him. The reason was that he had seen a photo of Wen Tao and Lin Lin posted online. Back in Paris, Lin Lin and Wen Tao were preparing vegetables to cook together in the kitchen. Ke called and even ordered food for her. Seeing his girlfriend happily beside Wen Tao, and then having the call abruptly ended before they could finish talking, Ke felt deeply saddened. Despite the distance and these small misunderstandings, Lin Lin's feelings remained unchanged. The two continued to call each other regularly. Ke worked hard, hoping to join Lin Lin in France soon. Today, he even went to seek permission from Professor Chen, but was unsuccessful, leaving him with a look of disappointment. That evening in Paris, Lin Lin was walking alone on the street when suddenly two perverts grabbed her phone and harassed her. Fortunately, Wen Tao noticed in time and ran to protect her. He fought off the two attackers, and Lin Lin used her phone to call the police. In defending her, Wen Tao was stabbed and seriously injured. Lin Lin was terrified and didn't know what to do, except hug him tightly and cry. Hearing the sound of approaching police sirens, the attackers fled. Lin Lin sat in the hospital, anxiously waiting for news of Wen Tao. Unable to stop crying, Ke called, and through her tears, she recounted everything to him. He was equally worried at home. When the doctor appeared, Lin Lin rushed to ask about Wen Tao's condition. Fortunately, he was taken in for emergency surgery in time. The stab wound was deep but did not damage any internal organs. Despite hearing this, Lin Lin remained extremely anxious. Once Wen Tao's surgery was complete, Lin Lin ran to his hospital room. She used a tissue to wipe his face. Upon hearing the news, two of Wen Tao's friends rushed over, but Lin Lin guided them away so that Wen Tao could rest quietly in his room. At this point, Lin Lin learned that Wen Tao had an important match in just 3 days, but in his current condition, he would be unable to participate. After the two friends left, Lin Lin stayed behind to care for Wen Tao. He had already woken up and spoke sweet words to her, which deeply moved her. The next morning, when she returned to her room, she found a cake and a gift bag at the door. She brought them inside, lit the candles, and made a wish alone. From then on, after school, Lin Lin would visit the hospital to take care of Wen Tao. Even when the food she brought was slightly spoiled, he ate it happily. That evening, Lin Lin returned home and lay on her bed when suddenly there was a knock at the door. She ran to open it and was surprised to see Ke. Overwhelmed with emotion, she hugged him tightly and cried. The next day, when Wen Tao heard Lin Lin telling him that Ke had arrived, his joy vanished. No matter what Ke tried, feeding him, giving him tangerines, Wen Tao refused to eat. Everything Ke did seemed to irritate him. That evening, after finishing her classes, Lin Lin stopped by the hospital. She gave Wen Tao some water, and only then did he agree to drink. Afterwards, Lin Lin went outside and talked with Ke, giving him numerous reminders. From that point on, Ke would take good care of Wen Tao. 2 weeks later, Ke even hired a professional caregiver for Wen Tao. The expert was extremely skilled and experienced, particularly with athletes, which was ideal. However, Wen Tao became frightened at the thought and immediately refused the help. Later, Ke returned home to cook with Lin Lin. He would soon have to leave, so this was likely their last meal together in Paris. Meanwhile, Wen Tao had returned to his training. The next day, when Ke went home, Lin Lin couldn't bear to let him leave, so she covered him with a blanket, shielding herself from the pain of parting. At school, Lin Lin's teacher introduced a model to help the students practice, and to her surprise, it was Ke. His appearance instantly lifted her spirits. Now, Ke's work could be done online, allowing him to stay there until Lin Lin finished her course. Time flew by, and today Lin Lin finally returned to her hometown. Her roommates were overjoyed to welcome her back, and they even gave her a gift that she loved. Meanwhile, the male students were also welcoming Ke's return, though their excitement was not as enthusiastic as that of the girls. At the same time, the COVID pandemic was spreading outside, and Lin Lin's mother called to give her reminders. Ke had to stand in line to buy masks. With only 20 minutes left before the school was about to lock down, he fortunately ran into Lin Lin just in time. The two of them embraced tightly, finding comfort in each other amid the tense situation. Elsewhere, Shi Duan was tending to plants inside the greenhouse and only learned of the news in the evening. Seeing numerous missed calls from Ru Ting on his phone, he hurriedly went to find her. Ru Ting had already brought a pile of food and medical masks to the greenhouse. Shi Duan embraced her, then prepared a bed for her to rest. The next day, Ke volunteered to deliver food to Lin Lin. Hearing his voice outside, she ran to the door and pressed close against it. After he left, she ran out to the balcony, called to him, and formed a heart shape with her hands. That evening he brought food again, but this time it was different. She ran to the balcony again, making a heart shape to send to him. Everyone below joined in to make heart shapes together, leaving Lin Lin unable to tell which one was her boyfriend. A few days later, the school relaxed its restrictions slightly. Lin Lin hurried down to meet her boyfriend, but she had to have her temperature checked first. Unfortunately, it was over sensi seshadu, so she was sent to the isolation room. She was deeply disappointed. As she was escorted inside, Wen Tao called. Learning what had happened, he immediately grew worried and booked a flight from Paris to be with her. Lin Lin's mother and Ku also called to check on her, while Li Ju stayed in the room crying over being isolated. Meanwhile, Wen Tao in Paris was figuring out how to book his flight back. Late at night at school, Ku remained seated, waiting patiently for his girlfriend. The next morning, Ku fell asleep on the school grounds. Lin Lin called him, and he was startled awake. Later, he sent her food along with a QR code to watch a video he had recorded. Meanwhile, in Paris, Wen Tao was dragging his suitcase toward the airport when he received a notification that his flight had been cancelled. After completing her 14-day quarantine, Lin Lin stepped outside and immediately saw Ku. She ran to him and embraced him tightly. Time passed, and everyone entered their final year of university, each facing new choices for their future. Today, Lin Lin and Li Ju had job interviews to attend. Ku, on the other hand, was house hunting with two friends to set up a computer office. Lin Lin arrived at the BQ restaurant for her interview and unexpectedly ran into someone she knew in the elevator, the restaurant owner. Though Lin Lin didn't realize it at first, he then guided her to the BQ Corporation, where many candidates had come for interviews. Surprisingly, Lin had just arrived when her name was immediately called for the interview. When it was Li Ju's turn for the interview, she came out looking very dejected, complaining that the questions had been extremely difficult. Lin, however, had a very different experience. She seemed to be given priority, and the interview questions were easy to answer. On top of that, her salary and benefits were higher than the others. This advantage came from her previous collaboration with Boss Xiao, as well as completing his intensive course. After finishing her interview, it began pouring outside. Boss Xiao stood behind her, holding an umbrella and escorting her away. The two chatted as they walked, but suddenly, Ku arrived to take Lin Lin home. Even though they shared an umbrella, they were still soaked by the rain. The next morning, Li Ju received her acceptance notice and screamed in joy. Lin, who had just woken up, checked her own email and happily shared the news with Ku. At that moment, he was also successfully negotiating a collaboration with an investor. That evening, Ku took Lin to see his small company, which happened to be close to her workplace. She was pleasantly surprised. The next morning, they went together to check out a room. By the window, Ku gently kissed her on the lips. Afterwards, they cleaned and decorated the room together, even getting paint all over their hands. Once the room was ready, they pretended to sit and toast with wine, celebrating their efforts, and then set up a password for the door. The following day, Lin began working at BQ Corporation. She was presenting her design when her superiors criticized her work. Just then, Boss Xiao appeared to explain and support her design before leaving again. Only then did Lin realize that he was the owner of the company. Meanwhile, Shiduan went to Ru Ting's family company. She was surprised, thinking he had come to pick her up, but in fact, he was there to discuss a work project with her father. Unaware of this, Ru Ting tried to stop him. Back at BQ Corporation, Boss Xiao brought Lin some hot water to drink. Suddenly, Ku brought late-night food to Lin since she had to stay at the company for overtime. Seeing his girlfriend receiving attention from another man, Ku couldn't hide his displeasure toward Boss Xiao. Later, he waited outside for Boss Xiao and warned him not to get close to Lin. The next day, Ku drove a new car to pick up Lin. Together, they attended the school's graduation ceremony. During the ceremony, Lin was recognized and invited to represent the graduating students of the Design Academy as an outstanding graduate. She went on stage to give her speech, followed by Ku, who represented the city's top graduates. At that time, Lin had to attend a company meeting. Meanwhile, on stage, Ku took out a ring to propose, but she wasn't there. Lin was being pressured by a difficult client, and Boss Xiao came to her rescue. However, the client was quite stubborn. Suddenly, another person appeared to help Lin, her close friend Wen Tao. Lin was very surprised. Seeing their close bond, Boss Xiao approached them, asked how they were doing, and invited the two to have dinner together. At this time, Ru Ting was deeply moved by Shi Duan's romantic proposal in the greenhouse. That evening, she returned to the dorm to share the news with her friends and suggested holding a celebratory meal. Suddenly, Ku messaged Lin, asking her to come downstairs. She ran down and saw Ku still wearing his graduation gown. He then draped the gown over her as well. He wanted to say so many things to her, but just then their friends appeared, inviting everyone to take photos together. Wen Tao also showed up, and everyone happily posed for pictures. A few days later, Ku took Lin Lin to a film set to shoot a commercial. Wen Tao politely asked Ku to step aside, earning praise from Boss Xiao for his consideration. When Lin Lin stumbled, all three young men rushed to help her, showing how concerned they were. During the shoot, Ku ran out to buy foot patches for Lin Lin. After she finished filming, he carried her to a chair and applied the patches, and later at home he gently helped her again. The next day, as she arrived at the company, Lin Lin was surprised to hear an announcement. Someone from another company wanted to meet her for a collaboration. To her astonishment, the person turned out to be none other than Ku. At this moment, Lin Lin finally realized that he had even prepared matching outfits for the two of them. She was surprised to learn that Ku had invited his girlfriend to create a custom design for his company. Outside, everyone was watching from the area where they had inquired. Afterwards, they went together to a restaurant for lunch to discuss work. In the evening, Ru Ting blindfolded Shi Duan and led him to her room, which she had decorated in a very romantic way to propose to him. Shi Duan immediately lifted her onto the bed and shared tender, romantic gestures with her. The next day, when Lin Lin arrived at the company and saw her product being launched, she smiled happily. By then, Ku's company had been transformed into an aquarium thanks to Lin Lin's design, and the two young men even dressed up as mermaids, which looked hilariously amusing. As soon as Lin Lin entered the office, she received praise from her superiors, whose attitude was now very different from before. Later, she heard that Wen Tao wanted to sign a full contract with her, which meant he would not have enough time to practice. Lin Lin then asked Boss Xiao for permission to step out and meet Wen Tao to talk. At this moment, he was at the tennis court. When he saw Lin Lin, he ran over to her cheerfully. However, after they sat down to talk, his expression turned less happy, as once again, his feelings had been rejected by her. Meanwhile, Ku was standing by the fish tank, admiring it, when suddenly, Boss Xiao came to see him and said she wanted to cancel the design contract with his company. Inside this very fish tank, Ku had prepared a banner to propose to Lin Lin. Afterwards, Ku went to the company to pick her up. When Lin Lin was about to get into the car, she felt flustered. She opened the trunk, expecting a surprise from Ku, but there was none. It turned out that earlier she had heard from Li Ju that she would receive a romantic proposal, yet at the restaurant, she still saw no surprise from Ku. To make matters worse, the restaurant didn't even have enough tables for the guests. She didn't feel surprised, only confused. When she returned home, she thought he had already prepared everything there. She noticed his tense expression, but upon entering the house, she received a completely different surprise. It turned out that both of their beloved mothers had arrived. That evening, Lin Lin noticed that both mothers were sitting and watching a movie, refusing to go to bed. She quietly unplugged the TV, and only then did they finally go to sleep. During the night, Lin Lin sneaked out of her room without her mother noticing. She followed Ku's banner to an incredibly romantic location that he had prepared just for her. She was deeply moved. Ku knelt before her, speaking sweet words, and when he opened the box, butterflies flew out. Lin Lin then agreed, and he gently placed the ring on her finger and kissed her for a long, lingering moment. When they returned home, they still could not bear to part. They fell asleep wrapped in each other's arms on the sofa. Early the next morning, the two mothers saw them, but couldn't bring themselves to wake the couple. They started to leave with their luggage, but as they reached downstairs, Lin Lin's mother realized she had left her wallet upstairs. She went back to retrieve it, accidentally witnessing a scene she shouldn't have seen. Quickly, she covered her eyes and searched around for her wallet before hurrying off. Afterwards, both Lin Lin and Ku still had to go to work. Ku met his friends and happily boasted that he had successfully proposed to Lin Lin. Meanwhile, Lin Lin, working at her desk, received some troubling news from Li Ju. She had accidentally sent the wedding invitations to the company group. Upon hearing this, Lin Lin became angry. Shortly after, Boss Xiao called her into the office to discuss the matter. At this moment, Wen Tao was at the practice court and saw the news, leaving him deeply disappointed. That evening, everyone came to celebrate the soon-to-be married couple, including Boss Xiao. Jie Wang happened to meet Boss Xiao and immediately took a liking to him. While everyone was dining, the doorbell suddenly rang. Lin Lin ran to open it and was surprised to see Wen Tao standing there. After the party ended, Wen Tao, drunk, went around hugging everyone, but his gaze only lingered on Lin Lin, yet he did not hug her. Once everyone had left, Ku closed the door, intending to kiss Lin Lin, but she pushed him away. While waiting for her to finish bathing, Ku lay on the bed, striking a pose as if to look seductive. When Lin Lin was ready, he ran over and kissed her. Their moment, however, was interrupted by loud singing from someone outside. They rushed out and realized it was Wen Tao, sitting there drinking heavily and utterly drunk. It was heartbreaking to see him witnessing the woman he loved being engaged to someone else. Afterwards, Ku Ke-yu and Lin Lin ran downstairs to help Wen Tao up to rest. In the middle of the night, he suddenly woke up and left, but not before reminding Ke-yu to take good care of Lin Lin. The next morning, as soon as Ke-yu and Lin Lin arrived at the company, they displayed affectionate gestures toward each other. That evening, Lin Lin had to go to the airport to meet a business partner, and Ke-yu called her while she was away, waiting for her at home. Later, he went ahead to prepare a surprise for Lin Lin at a hotel. When Lin Lin arrived, she thought she had gone to the wrong room. The room was decorated with balloons, and blue rose petals on the bed formed a heart shape. Turning around, she was surprised to see Ke-yu, who immediately approached and kissed her. A few days later, Lin Lin and her friends gathered to celebrate her promotion. After the party, everyone went their separate ways. Suddenly, Li Zhu glanced toward the street and saw someone resembling Shi Duan acting affectionately with another woman. She intended to run over and question him, but a passing car blocked her path. Li Zhu feared that if Ru Ting found out, she would be deeply hurt. That evening, Li Zhu went to a bar and called Ji Wang over to talk. Meanwhile, Lin Lin was at a table planning a birthday gift for Ke-yu's niece. At the bar, both Li Zhu and Ji Wang were drunk and saddened by Shi Duan's affair with another woman. However, it was at that moment that Li Zhu discovered that Ji Wang and Boss Xiao were in love. The next day, Lin Lin and Ke-yu went to a shopping center to pick out a gift for his niece. When Lin Lin suddenly received a call from Ru Ting, she immediately rushed back to the company to meet her, but Ru Ting hesitated and could barely form a sentence. She only asked a few questions before leaving Lin Lin puzzled. That evening, Ke-yu returned home late from work and seemed somewhat distant toward Lin Lin. When she picked up his jacket, she found a strand of hair from another woman. Later, in the middle of the night, she got up while Ke-yu was asleep to check his belongings. Seeing a receipt inside his jacket, she grew suspicious. The next morning, she questioned him until he left for work. After he left, Lin Lin removed the hair from his notebook and threw it into the trash. Suddenly, Ru Ting arrived, looking angry. She took a sip of water and revealed that Shi Duan had been unfaithful. She then showed Lin Lin the evidence she had collected. Together, the two of them began to track the woman whom Ru Ting suspected of having an affair with Shi Duan. At this point, they were at a cafe, keeping their eyes on the main target, a young woman with purple-dyed hair sitting alone. Occasionally, Ru Ting and Lin Lin would glance over to observe her. After a while, Shi Duan appeared and affectionately embraced the woman. Shocked, Ru Ting began to cry, and Lin Lin comforted her. Ru Ting soon composed herself and reapplied her makeup to look refreshed. Shi Duan eventually left, and then Ke-yu also displayed friendly, intimate gestures with another woman. Suddenly, Lin Lin remembered finding a strand of another woman's hair on Ke-yu's jacket previously. Both women were now furious and patiently waited for the right moment to act. When Ke-yu escorted the unknown woman away, Ru Ting and Lin Lin immediately hailed a taxi to follow them. The situation grew increasingly tense, and during the ride, the taxi driver made a comment that angered Lin Lin and Ru Ting. When they stopped the car, Ru Ting struck him, and the incident had to be resolved at the Thep police station. Later, both of their boyfriends arrived, but they were scolded by the two women, leaving Shi Duan and Ke-yu bewildered and unsure of what had happened. Ke-yu had no choice but to follow Lin Lin and calm her down. Meanwhile, Lin Lin and her friends sat together to discuss the situation when Li Zhu suddenly stood up and shouted, realizing that Ke-yu had also been unfaithful. That evening, Li Zhu prepared all the tools to help Lin Lin and Ru Ting get justice. The two women followed the men to their locations, only to be surprised when they entered and saw that the entire place was filled with wedding dresses. Both men appeared, stepping out in sharp suits, looking extremely handsome. Lin Lin and Ru Ting were left speechless. Then, the woman whom Lin Lin and Ru Ting had suspected their men of cheating with appeared. She invited Lin Lin to try on a wedding dress. Seeing his future wife in the gown, Ke-yu froze, mesmerized by her stunning beauty. He kept admiring her before stepping forward to whisper sweet words and kiss her. Lin Lin felt immense joy and happiness. At this moment, Li Zhu came and knocked on the door. She barged in and gave the purple-haired woman a good scolding, after which the woman had to bow and apologize for the misunderstanding. Everyone around could only watch helplessly. Time passed, and finally, the Lunar New Year arrived. Lin Lin and Ke-yu returned home to prepare for the wedding with their families. However, Ke-yu was soon sent home by Lin Lin's mother. Lin Lin's father watched his daughter eat with tears welling in his eyes, knowing he would soon have to give her away to her husband. Lin Lin, moved, also shed tears. Meanwhile, Ke-yu prepared the bridal room at home. As Ke-yu listened to his mother's instructions, there was a knock on the door. It was Wen Tao, coming to congratulate the couple and present a wedding gift. Suddenly, Ke-yu asked Wen Tao his zodiac sign to see if he could spend the night there with him. On the other side, the girls were drinking beer in celebration of Lin Lin. The next day, as the wedding ceremony was about to begin, Ji Wang Wang arrived wearing a stunning outfit unlike anything she normally wore. She immediately began speaking, but Lin Lin's and Kayu's mother didn't understand what she was saying. At this moment, the bride, Lin Lin, and the groom, Kayu, were filled with worry and excitement as the wedding ceremony began. Wen Tao could only stand backstage, watching the event unfold. Kayu stood before Lin Lin and spoke sweet words to her, leaving her deeply moved and happy. Lin Lin's mother, sitting below, could not hold back her tears. After the couple exchanged rings, Kayu kissed her, and even Wen Tao, standing behind the curtain, could not hold back his own tears. Next came the bouquet toss. Jie Wang and Li Ju scrambled to catch it. Seeing this, Ru Ting told Shi Duan that they should not have invited Li Ju and Jie Wang to their wedding. Li Ju, observing the affectionate kiss between Ru Ting and Shi Duan, moved to a corner to sit alone. A young man noticed her and pretended to have a stomachache so he could sit with her. Secretly, he took out a ring and pretended to drop it. He then picked it up and handed it to her. Speaking awkwardly, Li Ju, amused, pushed him down and kissed him. At this moment, the bride, Lin Lin, had changed into another dress. She sat down on a chair, and Kayu peeled candy for her to eat. She was likely exhausted, with little energy left, yet the bride and groom still had to go out to toast the guests. As they stepped forward, the lights brightened, but everyone was surprised to see the supporting couple kissing below. Ru Ting and Jie Wang quickly ran over to distract everyone. Meanwhile, in the dressing room, Li Ju was being scolded by the others. Suddenly, Lin Lin felt dizzy and could no longer stand. Everyone was very worried, knowing she hadn't eaten all day. Kayu planned to take his bride out to eat, but it was the moment for toasting the guests, making it difficult to leave. To solve this, Ru Ting stepped outside to draw attention away, allowing the bride and groom to sneak out. They went to a noodle shop, leaving everything else for their friends to handle. There, the two shared a single strand of noodle together. Overcome with emotion, Kayu could no longer resist and kissed Lin Lin. This is the end of the movie. Goodbye, and see you again.